We've finished the third week of the Lake Stevens Battle Association in the year 2025, and it's the 12th season. My battle was canceled this week because Patrick Bateman forfeited, so I got 3.0. I went from 12th place, which is last, to 9th place. First up, we have Azoth versus Rodney, and this is the full mono bug team. He leads with his guy to set up his rock, and so does Rodney. And he switches out his Cleavor. We don't know why he did that. No, he expected an Earth Power, so he switched in his Levitator, but he actually went with Stealth Rock, and he wanted to get up his Sticky Web as soon as possible. But Arcanine Isui can KO whatever it wants for the most part. So he has to sacrifice it. The only way of beating this guy was the Aqua Jet. So Rodney might have been better off switching into Kyurem, Urshifu, Latias, Tapu Bulu. But he loses the Rockruff to the one move that can beat it. And this ability is so bad. Emergency Exit. This did not help him at all. He lost his 50%, and now he's forced to switch. He didn't get to do anything this turn. Unless he was purposely absorbing the damage. This Frostmoth is 4 times weak to rock. He is doing a pretty big risk here because he just revealed Stone Edge, so obviously Stone Edge is coming, but he's ended up getting really lucky. I think Caesar could have bullet punched without getting much consequence for it. And the Stone Edge misses. This is the whole reason he ends up winning this. He gets the Ice Beam off. It one-hit KOs the Tapu Bulu. He switches in his Urshifu Rapid Strike, and the Urshifu... I don't know enough about Surging Strikes, but it hit 3 times. I think that's the most it can hit. But he had just enough defense to survive it. And we know that it's a Scarfed Urshifu, so if it weren't Scarfed, that might have been a little different. And he's able to Giga Drain. He heals 51% off of the Giga Drain, 6% from the... I just realized that it was because of the grassy terrain that he got a boost to his Giga Drain. But that is the most a Frostmoth can really expect to do. It did 67 to the Kyurem, which is fantastic. I'd say send in Caesar now. But he goes with Cleavor, because he wants to get his Stone Axe for the last couple too. And this must be a Scarfed Cleavor, which is why he was so confident about sending it out. Now, a person paying attention to scarfs and choice items might realize he was locked into a rock move and send in his ground type. But he gets off the other one, does Mystical Fire for not enough. I think he catches on, or at least he... And then he gets the Earth Power. This guy also has the heavy-duty boots, because he had a Volt Switch set for it. Volcarona always Quiver Dances, no matter what's going on. So it Bug Buzzes, and then it Bug Buzzes again. It's gotta feel bad losing to the mono bug team instead of a legitimately crafted team for NetDex OU. Alright, the third shortest battle here is Joey versus Dylan. And we have couple ice types. I think this is 3 ice types. Alright, they both get the setup that they want. He gets the Aurora Veil and he gets the Stealth Rock. And he goes for Hidden Power. And he uses Freeze Dry a second time, and just in case Ogerpon gets switched in. This is the battle that makes him trade away his Vanillix. He gives up on it. So this is a Mega DNC, we know that, because he's not allowed to have a different one. So if this Aurora Veil were not up, this Tapu Koko would be knocked out. The defog gets rid of both of the things they established. Fortress sacrificed itself for the Stealth Rock and Spikes, and now it's gone. All it did was hurt that Tapu Koko. Now he Earth Powers. Although it is a Steel type, I don't think it has a Steel attack on this set. And the best he can do is Infestation. I don't know what the Infestation was necessarily for. So Joey is a newer player, and newer players know more about newer Pokemon. Dylan is an older player, so he doesn't know about newer Pokemon. So he uses that, and he tries to Strength Sap, but the Strength Sap is a magic bounced move, so it loses the attack and heals its enemy, which I don't think anyone was expecting. I don't think anyone knows enough about Strength Sap to make that kind of choice. And that did 41, so how much was he at? So if it had Earth Powered twice, this DNC would be knocked out. And he switches in the Vanillix after for the revenge kill. And so he knocks that out. Out of all his choices, he sends in Vanillix because he really wants to get another Aurora Veil set up. He wants the Freezy Boy time. Does Iron Bundle learn Blizzard? Because that would have been a pretty pro move. And although its counterpart is Flying Ice, Iron Bundle is Ice Water. So it was super effective. We see that this... Oh, he wanted the Slush Rush for the Sea Titan. If Joey had been a little more... had a little more foresight, he might have protected just to stall out the Snow Turn. But I think he was worried about a Belly Drum, because that happens with that guy sometimes. Yeah, if he had protected, this guy would be knocked out already. Blaziken would still be there. He'd be alive to close combat. So there were 4 fighting weaknesses on this team. Ivy Cudgel, because Sea Titan doesn't have much it can do. It didn't expect to outspeed, so he tried to Ice Shard it. That was the most damage he could do. And it gets Stomping Tantrum, so it was able to do something to the Goodra. Next we have Josh versus James. We got a very scary Sun team going on. We got Charizard, Great Tusk, and Walking Wake, who all benefit from Sunshine. Anticipating this, Josh brings Chiyu. And he leads Toxapex, expecting, I don't know, Golden Go? But that ended up being a pretty awful lead. because Great Tusk came out and got to set up a bulk up. Because even if it got scalded, I don't think Great Tusk was going to mind that much, but he predicted really correctly. And he got Photosynthesis Defense instead of Photosynthesis Speed, so he couldn't actually do anything with his Great Tusk. It went down to a single Luster Purge. And so the Ghost type gets sent out to deal with the Latios, and he switches into Clefable, and then he was expecting the Make It Rain move, which would be resisted by Chiyu. Chiyu would resist both things. But I don't know why he didn't send out Chiyu first. We are still a little worried that there's a Focus Blast on Golden Go. Make It Rain is not enough. Oh, he switched into a Make It Rain. He didn't want to do the obvious thing because he's expecting the Assault Vest Primarina, who will resist both of its stab moves. So he goes for Psychic, which only does 38 even on a crit. I don't know what Whirlpool is gonna do, but I think that stops you from switching, so this ends up being an interesting Clefable set. The Whirlpool does not continue after a switch, so he can switch it right now, and so that's what he's expecting, so that's why he did a setup, expecting a switch. And he goes for the Stealth Rock. Make It Rain is very close to being enough to KO. This is probably an unaware set. Yeah, like I said for the previous battle, Josh is one of the newer players, and James here is one of... Sorry. Josh is one of the older players, and James is one of the newer ones, so newer players know more about newer Pokemon. And so he goes for the Thunder Wave, but because he doesn't know what the Good as Gold ability does. Either that, or he's expecting a switch. Either way, that's... He was expecting to sacrifice it, or if there was maybe a switch, he was going to Thunder Wave it. And the Dark Pulse is enough. He confirmed that it's not a Choice Scarf. That's why he sent in this guy earlier to check it, and he revealed his item, so now he's not as scared of it. He is more likely to be locked into Dark Pulse, so he's sending in his Pokemon that has Justified to resist the Dark move. And he tried to Vacuum Wave Chiyu. And this ends up being a Scarfed Garchomp. And he used Poison Jab, expecting a switch into Primarina. Because he was expecting him to expect Earthquake or Outrage? No, he was expecting him to use Scale Shot. So he anticipated a switch and tried to Poison Jab the Primarina. But now he's locked into it. He expected it a second time. He knew that he was going to Vacuum Wave again, so he switched into Latios, knowing Latios could definitely handle. And that had to be a sack. He sacrificed the Chiyu. There we go. He finally got to do what he's been trying to do. And the Photosynthesis speed is always really nice. And that Dragon Pulse, oh. And I think this is a Specs Latios. And this is kind of a risk. He Draco Meteored a second time, but he could take that risk because he knew Iron Boulder was going to outspeed, because you can't give a Mega a Choice Scarf, so it's gonna go faster. Next, we have a battle between two of the founding members of the Lake Stevens Battle Association. They've been here all 12 years. That's Alex and Taco. And what's happening? He sends in his Tinkaton, which is a pretty decent lead. This Greninja does not have U-turn. We can establish that pretty well. And he goes for Thunder Wave and Stealth Rock, and that goes pretty well for him. But he sets up his own Stealth Rock. Everybody's got Stealth Rock now. And he senses weakness. So he takes the time to set up on Ferrothorn, just in case the paralysis stops it. And I think this is a Boots... This is Boots Terapagos. But he has not gotten any paralysis turns on his Ferrothorn. So he was able to set up both Thunder Wave and Leech Seed. Ancient Power is just for the hype. It's not his best move. Alright, the Hurricane was intended for Terapagos. But I think Thunderbolt would have been enough for it. Not that he necessarily has Thunderbolt. And Iron Treads resists both Hurricane and Thunderbolt. So he's a good sort of against Zapdos, because he probably doesn't have Heat Wave. Because he's used too many moves so far. And Kyurem is the switch here, which takes so much from Gyro Ball. Extra because of the paralysis. Gyro Ball is based on speed, and paralysis reduces speed. So he could have switched in Ditto, and that would have been good against nothing, okay? That would have been terrible, because he'd be choice locked. And everything is either weak to ice, everything... He has resistances for both ice and ground. And the Quark Drive speed with the Fiery Dance is a very scary combination. Fiery Dance hits, but it's not quite enough to do him in. And it gets the extra special attack boost. In this very specific scenario, it might have been better to booster energy his special attack. I don't know if that's exactly a choice. But he gets hit by a critical hit Stone Edge. He goes for Water Shuriken to take out Landorus just in case it's getting sacked. And even though it's resisted, it still did 16% to Rotom, and then it took a little from the rocks. Zapdos comes in, gets hit by the Volt Switch, but it's a special defense set Volt Zapdos. And he switches in his hard counter. He's trying to rapid spin away these rocks. Yeah, my guess is its other two moves are Thunderbolt and Roost. And the rapid spin guaranteed that it was faster than the Zapdos, so it could Rock Slide it. Now that the rocks are gone, it is much easier to switch in Rotom. But he doesn't want to take that risk. He says he's done with his Iron Treads. Alright, 2/3 of that would have been... It has still been a 2H KO. Ditto and Weevil would be able to knock it out, whether it got the boost, the Battle Bond boost, or not. The Fake Out comes in and it takes more damage than it does. It loses from Rocky Helmet and Life Orb. Not that it would make any difference because to this Gigaton Hammer. So he knocks off the Rocky Helmet. He's mad at it. But then there's an ability I've never seen proc before. It's called Pickpocket, where if it gets knocked off, it steals the item back from the other guy. So now Tinkaton has Life Orb, because it's pretty much done with its Rocky Helmet. So I'd have said, not that it would have made much of a difference, to sack the Landorus to get the Intimidate off, because he can't switch out of the Intimidate anymore. And then see that it was locked into a quadruple resisted move and have Rotom there. But this has to be a Scarfed Landorus, and he made the right choice because he ends up winning. Wait. Ditto Tinkaton would have 315 speed. They're not both Scarfed in that case. Only Landorus is Scarfed. This Ditto is not Scarfed. What's its move? What's its item? He did something weird. And this is our final battle of the week. Even though this is the longest battle, it's still pretty short. This week had short battles. So, our guy, Chartwig, he had to step out. And he asked his little brother. His little brother can be anywhere between 8 years old and 25 years old. We don't know. We didn't ask. And he goes for Fire Punch just in case there's a burn. And the Sticky Web gets dropped from the Ribombee because everyone's running Sticky Web this year. And he goes for a second Fire Punch into a resisted rain drop fire move. And the 200 IQ play here would have been to set it to competitive rather than Marvel scale, because everyone's running Sticky Web, and he could have had a double special attack here, but it's Marvel scale. And he goes for the Whirlpool, so this is an interesting set. But Whirlpool doesn't contain flip turn users. And he goes for the agility so that he can outspeed. Because nothing is scared of Politoed. So yeah, this is a cool set. It whirlpools so that you can't switch. It's a slightly better than Mean Look. Because it does damage. And then it Paris songs. So if you're still in play, so he can almost definitely expect a switch out this turn, because otherwise he loses a Pokemon that he didn't have to. So he switches into Moltres, and the Moltres defogs. It just gets rid of the sticky web and the Stealth Rocks. Alright, he knows this is a physically defensive Milotic, so he doesn't have as much to worry about. Everything has Volt Turn. He puts the Stealth Rocks up because he thinks it's going to affect the Moltres, but the Moltres probably has Boots. And the Brave Bird on the Quackleval. Wouldn't have even 2-hit KO'd. He could have just recovered out of the Brave Birds. Oh, that Sacred Sword. I don't think that's the move he was expecting. So, this is Shadow Tag, so he is not able to switch out his Shenpao. He was expecting a Swords Dance or something because he saw the Life Orb on the Shenpao. So he encored. But if he was somehow able to predict the future, he could have countered and then saved his Destiny Bond for the next guy, but it's good enough. He Destiny Bonds. He takes something out with it. That's still plus. Oh, no, there's no Boots on the Moltres. And then their two little defensive guys are just chipping away at each other. But I think Moltres has the advantage here because it can heal. Oh, close combat is almost enough to beat the Tinglu, but Tinglu's able to beat it right back. And this is not looking good for Jack right now. Okay. I don't think Final Gambit was the move for Annihilate, but I think it could have outsped and Stone Edged. But this has gotta be like a choiced Mew. Well, that was week 3. Thanks for participating.